Messinger of South Dakota to serve a second term as a commissioner of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Both of these nominees were raised on farms and understand the needs of farmers and ranchers and rural communities. I have 3 goals for the Farm Bill: keep farmers farming, keep families fed, and keep rural communities strong. And the role of Undersecretary of Agriculture for Rural Development is essential to all 3. For the more than 46 million people who call rural America home, the USDA's Rural Development Mission Area is a pathway to revitalizing their communities, creating new jobs, and improving their quality of life. As we know, the climate crisis and a changing economy are placing significant pressures on rural communities. Addressing these challenges will be no small undertaking, but I know that Dr. Gooden is up to the task. Dr. Gooden has a wealth of experience. He currently serves as the Director of State Operations for USDA Rural Development. He previously served as the 3rd Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry for the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Virginia State Director for Rural Development at USDA, and as the Chief Deputy Director of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. Perhaps most importantly is Dr. Gooden understands the needs of rural America because he's from rural America. He and his family still own and operate a cattle farm in his native Buckingham County, Virginia. The Commodities Futures Trading Commission also plays an essential role in our economy by stabilizing costs to feed our families and power our homes. Derivatives markets provide farmers and producers with tools they need to manage their business risks as they face extreme weather events and implement more climate-smart agricultural practices. The derivatives markets are complex and constantly evolving. So the CFTC's work to safeguard market integrity has never been more important. And the hardworking agency staff cannot do their jobs unless Congress does its job and provides the CFTC with sufficient reliable funding. We must also ensure that our financial markets are fair for all customers, not just the most sophisticated. This principle extends to the digital asset market. As Congress considers how to regulate digital assets, we will need to lean on the experience of the Commission to make sure we get it right. And with that, I'd like to welcome back Commissioner Mersinger. Hailing from a long line of Midwestern farmers and ranchers, she knows firsthand that agricultural commodities are the backbone of our economy and understands the importance of well-functioning derivatives markets. As the sponsor of the CFTC's Energy and Environmental Markets Advisory Committee, she hears directly from energy producers and consumers about the challenges of modernizing our power grid and transitioning to clean and renewable resources. With this experience, Commissioner Mersinger is well suited to help lead the CFTC. Dr. Gooden and Commissioner Mersinger are both extremely qualified for the roles to which they have been nominated. I look forward to supporting their nominations and working closely with them once they are confirmed. I will note that they both have received letters of support from multiple stakeholders, and I ask unanimous consent that these letters be entered into the record. So ordered without objection. And with that, I will turn to my friend and ranking member, Senator Bozeman, for his opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, very much. And today, as has been said, we are here to meet and listen to Dr. Basil Gooden, President Biden's nominee to serve as Undersecretary of Agriculture for Rural Development, and the Honorable Summer Mersinger, who's been nominated as the CFTC Commissioner. I want to thank both of you for being here, and we appreciate your service. Both of you all have excellent reputations. As the son of a farmer with roots in rural Buckingham County, Virginia, Dr. Gooden possesses a passion for rural communities that has underpinned his distinguished career. When he and I spoke earlier this week in my office, he told me a story of his father dropping him off as a freshman at Virginia Tech and telling him not to return home to the farm. He also reminded me that Virginia Tech had beat Arkansas in a bowl game. But his dad told him not to return to the farm. Instead, his father recommended he go where the jobs and opportunity exist. It's understandable that comments like these would hit hard for a young man leaving home for the first time, and we appreciate that you've spent your career, making opportunities for people to go back to the farm. Dr. Gooden draws upon these experiences in his current role as Director of the State Rural Development Operations at USDA. Throughout his career, Dr. Gooden has shown a willingness to work across party lines in the state of Virginia, having served under both Republican and Democrat governors, most notably as the Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry for the state of Virginia. If confirmed, Dr. Gooden will be charged with the critical mission of improving the economy and quality of life in rural America through 3 agencies: the Rural Utilities Service, the Rural Housing Service, and the Rural Business Cooperative Service. Much of rural America lacks basic necessities such as clean drinking water, sanitation, broadband, health care, and child care, among others. Over the last decade, population decline has hit rural communities hard, compounding the difficulty of ensuring access to many of these necessary services. As residents leave for urban and suburban areas, municipalities lose access to tax dollars needed to improve water and electric infrastructure. Cooperatives are asked to do more with less while maintaining affordable rates. Dr. Gooden, I trust you will draw upon your previous experiences and familiarity with rural Virginia to represent Americans well and work tirelessly to advance their interest. Turning to Commissioner Mersinger, she has served as a CFTC Commissioner since 2022, and before that served in other roles at the agency. That experience, along with her agricultural background, makes her especially qualified for this role. I especially enjoyed her visit to Arkansas last year, where she got to meet with various Arkansas agriculture stakeholders. Through a pragmatic, principles-based approach, the CFTC has built and implemented constructive, workable regulatory frameworks for markets to function efficiently. Derivatives contracts served as resilient risk management tools because the CFTC implements comprehensive rules, diligently polices the cash and derivatives commodity markets, and protects market participants. As a sponsor of the CFTC's Energy and Environmental Markets Advisory Committee, Commissioner Mersinger has championed resiliency of agriculture and energy markets, which are essential risk management and price discovery tools for those who feed and clothe us and who provide reliable energy sources necessary to power our daily lives. Commissioner Mersinger has also led the call for regulators to deliver clear guidance in a timely manner in order to reduce risk. I've appreciated your perspective on no-action relief and your recognition that while no-action relief is a good thing, extending it over and over again without fixing a broken rule creates risk and uncertainty. I applaud Commissioner Mersinger for calling to codify repeatedly extended no-action relief, which would ultimately reduce uncertainty. I also hope that when the agency is going to extend no-action relief, it makes that decision sooner rather than later. Waiting until the last minute to extend relief leaves market participants guessing and creates risk, especially in times of volatility. Finally, Commissioner Mersinger has also appropriately recognized the global nature of derivatives markets and the importance of open markets. She appreciates that barriers to market access reduce liquidity, increase hedging costs, and weaken market resiliency. Commissioner Mersinger is a champion for agriculture end users and ensuring the derivatives markets continue to serve as a viable risk management tool for this important constituency. I look forward to supporting her nomination. In closing, I'm glad that we can hold this hearing today, and I look forward to getting you to confirmed as soon as possible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And before introducing our 2 witnesses, I'd like to turn to Senator Grassley, who I think has some comments that he would like to make.
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I asked for a point of personal privilege. I'm going to be here just for a short period of time because of a long agenda on the Judiciary Committee now meeting. I told the nominees I would submit my questions for answer in writing. So I'd like to talk about a member of my staff who has been working with you all here on this committee for a long period of time. So I'd take a moment to commend a member of my staff, Joe Gilson, who is leaving my office for greener pastures after 4 years with my office. I hate to lose Joe as he provides me excellent guidance on ag, energy, environment, and trade policy. Joe is a native of the farming community of Prairie City, Iowa, so he came to my office knowing a lot about agriculture, or like I like to say, with a bit of dirt under his fingernails. Joe's time at Simpson College beefed up his interest in agriculture. During his 4 years in my office, Joe rolled up his sleeves and got to work holding countless meetings here from Iowans, crafting legislation to help family farmers and independent cattle producers and promoting biofuels. So I want to thank Joe for all of his hard work for the family farmers of Iowa and all of the people of Iowa. And we wish you well, Joe, in your next assignment. Thank you very much for.
Well, thank you. And Joe, why don't you stand up so we can give you. Okay. Wonderful. We wish you the best. All right. Our first nominee is Dr. Basil Gooden, and as I indicated before, Dr. Gooden is currently the Director of State Operations for Rural Development at USDA. Prior to this, he served as Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry for the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Virginia State Director for Rural Development at USDA. Dr. Gooden has also served as the Chief Deputy Director of Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, an Extension Specialist at Virginia Tech, and as a County Committee Advisor for USDA Farm Service Agency. So welcome, Dr. Gooden, and I now will turn to Senator Thune, who will introduce our Commissioner Mersinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair, both to you and Senator Bozeman for having this very important nominations hearing, and I am very pleased today to be able to introduce to this committee again Commissioner Summer Mersinger, who's been nominated to serve another term as Commissioner at the CFTC. I've had the privilege of knowing Summer for, I want to say, going on 25 years now. She grew up in a small town in South Dakota, has been noted, Oneida, South Dakota, where her family continues to run a diversified row crop operation. Went on to study political science at the University of Minnesota. After she graduated, she moved to Washington, D.C. to work on my staff in the U.S. House of Representatives. And after stints on my campaign and in the private sector, she came with me to the United States Senate to serve as a member of my staff there. And while serving in the Senate, and let me just, I think this speaks to her work ethic. She was working full-time in our office in the Senate, going to law school, got her law degree in 2007 from Catholic University's Columbia School of Law, and started a family. So she was raising kids, going to law school, and working full-time in the United States Senate, and in every circumstance did it with professionalism, excellence, and integrity. So I'm delighted to be able to be here today to introduce her to the committee. She's worked in the private sector at the Smith-Free Group, worked on a range of issues from cybersecurity to tax policy, joined the CFTC as Chairman Tarbert's staff as Director of Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs, and then went on to serve as then Commissioner Stump's Chief of Staff. And then last year, the Senate unanimously confirmed Summer's nomination to serve in the CFTC Commissioner role, which she holds today, and I hope we will move swiftly to confirm her reappointment to this important position, I should say. During her short time at the CFTC, she's been an active commissioner. She leads the Energy and Environmental Markets Advisory Committee. She's also the only current commissioner who comes from a farm family, which gives her a unique perspective on the importance of agriculture markets for the livelihoods of farmers and ranchers across the country. And as you noted, Madam Chair, many ag groups across the country recently voiced support for Summer's nomination, and I think you've already asked consent to submit those letters for the record, but I would reiterate that request. Summer is a critical thinker. She's a problem solver. She is I would say, consummate example of professionalism. She will approach issues with an open mind. She is fair, she's honest. She's a woman of integrity, and I think we're very fortunate that she's willing to continue serving in this important role at the CFTC. And I know her husband, Pat, who's here today, and her 4 children, Sienna, Sydney, Wyatt, and Drake, are all here as well. I know they're very proud of her, and as am I, and all of South Dakota. So, Summer, congratulations on your nomination. I look forward to considering your reappointment and working with my colleagues on this committee and in the Senate to ensure that your confirmation moves forward. So, congratulations. Great to have you back.
Well, thank you, Senator Thune. Yeah, absolutely. So first, Dr. Gooden and Commissioner Mercinger, we have a couple of questions to ask, and we need to administer the oath. So if you would stand and each raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you. And secondly, do you agree that if confirmed, you will appear before any duly constituted committee of Congress if asked to appear? Thank you very much. Your testimony, as you know, will be made a part of the record. You can be seated. Thank you so much. And we will now turn to Dr. Gooden for your comments.
Thank you, Chairwoman Stabenow, Ranking Member Bozeman, and members of the Senate Agriculture Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today and your consideration of my nomination. I also want to thank my lovely wife of more than 30 years, Susan, and our daughter, Caper, who are both here with us today. I want to acknowledge and thank my 6 siblings for their support and encouragement. And I want to acknowledge my parents, Alan and Christine Gooden. Both of my parents were educators. My mother, a home economics teacher, and my father, a school principal. Their influence has had a profound impact on my life and continue to guide me today. I am honored and humbled to have been nominated by President Biden to the position of USDA Undersecretary for Rural Development. I sincerely appreciate the support of Secretary Vilsack and the support and friendship of Deputy Secretary Xochitl Torres-Small and former Deputy Secretary Dr. Jewel Bronaugh. I also want to thank the many farmers, ranchers, landowners that I've worked with over the years who continue to provide me insight and advice to this very day. I am a proud product of rural America. My family and I own and operate a beef cattle farm in Buckingham County, Virginia. There, I learned the lessons of hard work, responsibility, and being a grateful steward of our land and environment. Down the road from our family's farm, my grandparents owned and operated a small country store that served our rural community for nearly 5 decades. Spending time there as a kid, I saw firsthand how this country store nurtured a sense of community. Looking back, I realized that this was far more than just a store. It was a vital institution in sustaining the health, social, and economic well-being of our rural community. As Ranking Member Bozeman indicated, when my parents took me to college to attend Virginia Tech, my father gave me some profound advice. He told me to study hard, get good grades, and don't plan to come back to the country when you graduate. He said there are no opportunities there, so you go to where the jobs are. His words really stunned me, and they stick with me to this very day. Throughout my career, I've worked to level the playing field for rural Americans so that rural parents and children have the same opportunities and quality of life as people in non-rural areas. I've had the honor of serving as the 3rd Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry for the Commonwealth of Virginia. There, I worked with farmers, ranchers, landowners, and rural businesses across Virginia and across the country to advocate for and promote agriculture and rural businesses. In this work, I saw firsthand the rich diversity of rural America. I got the opportunity to travel the back roads of Appalachia, visit many small towns of the Black Belt and many tribal communities in the Midwest. Here, I recognize and appreciate it that rural America is not monolithic. Rural communities have their own unique strengths, needs, and assets. I've had the privilege of working in rural development in two different capacities. First, I served as state director in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and now I serve as director of state operations. I want to acknowledge that rural development has an outstanding, very knowledgeable workforce that is dedicated to our mission in rural America. If I have the honor of being confirmed, I will work every day to advance the top priority of promoting rural livability. We will do this at Rural Development by ensuring that our program applications are easier for our customers to access and complete, better using technology to streamline our work, supporting and strengthening our workforce, and building our partnerships to better deliver and leverage resources in rural America. Through these priorities, we will continue to work in advancing racial justice, equity, and rural prosperity. Across America, in every state, very successful people in every career field imaginable were raised in rural communities. I am committed to making sure that rural communities don't just produce talent that is invested in cities, but they are also able to reap the benefit from the values, work ethic, and community spirit that rural communities have so very well cultivated. Like my grandparents and their country store, I am committed to promoting community connections that both matter and have a vital impact on the betterment of our society. Again, thank you for your time today, and I look forward to answering any and all questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Mersinger, welcome back to the committee.
Chairwoman Stabenow, Ranking Member Bozeman, and members of this committee. It's an honor to sit before you today as a nominee for a full 5-year term as a commissioner at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. I'm incredibly grateful to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell for recommending me and to President Joe Biden for renominating me to serve as a commissioner. On the heels of this Thanksgiving holiday, I count this honor as one of many blessings of 2023. And as we continue to count our blessings during this holiday season, I want to take a brief moment to reintroduce those blessings in my life that are most precious to me. My husband, Patrick, and my 4 children, Sienna, Sydney, Wyatt, and Drake, who are all joining me today. My 4 children are my live wires. They keep me on my toes, and I'm alert for anything. And while they're my live wires, my husband's my grounding wire. He makes sure I don't short circuit and completely burn out from the many power surges we experience as parents of 2 teenage daughters and 2 preteen boys. I also want to mention the love and support I receive from my parents, my siblings, and my many other family members who could not be here today but are joining us virtually. You've all blessed my life in so many ways. And my list of blessings would not be complete without mentioning my rock star staff, Chris Lucas, Terry Arbett, Libby Master Giacomo, Latasha Pate, and my 2 student interns, Tim Ackinger and Izzy McAvilia. And to all the impressive staff at the CFTC, whether in the Chicago, Kansas City, New York, or DC office, thank you. Thank you for your hard work, for your dedication, and your service to the people of the United States. I fully recognize that I cannot do this job without you, and I'm blessed to call you all colleagues. And blessed does not even fully explain how I feel when I look back over at the journey that led me here. I am eternally grateful to the leadership of my very first boss, Senator John Thune. Senator Thune, you have always demonstrated how to be a leader with a strong moral compass, how to do the right thing when it's the hard thing, and how to always remember where you came from. You also taught me how to be a humble servant to both God and country. Thank you. I wish I could also mention every last one of my former coworkers from Team Thune. They have all become my second family, but you all know who you are, and you all know how important you are to me. Finally, to my fellow CFTC commissioners, what an honor it is to serve among such a distinguished group. Russ, Some days I'm convinced you have the hardest job in Washington, but you always manage to lead with fairness, patience, and respect. To Kristen, Christy, and Caroline, I am still in awe of all of you. You inspire me daily, and I am blessed to not only call you my colleagues, but my dearest friends. Although only a year and 8 months has passed since I last appeared before this committee, it feels like a lifetime of experiences have blessed my term as a CFTC commissioner. The term I served has prepared me and energized me to continue in this role for another term, if it is the will of this committee in the United States Senate. As a commission, we have demonstrated what can be accomplished when we work together in a bipartisan manner. In total, we have proposed 12 new rulemakings for public comment, approved almost 100 enforcement actions, resulting in billions of dollars imposed in civil monetary penalties, and authorized over $34 million in whistleblower payments, demonstrating the success of this important program. We've collectively held 14 advisory committee meetings, including 4 held by the advisory committee I sponsor, the Energy and Environmental Markets Committee, or EMAC. I'm blessed by the commitment of the members and associate members of the EMAC and its subcommittees, as well as the member of the CFTC's other advisory committees. These individuals offer their time to assist the agency in fulfilling our mission and help inform our work through their vast knowledge, experience, and expertise. Recently, I was back home in South Dakota during the final days of fall harvest on my family's farm. As I watched the combine headers cut down the rows of corn and sunflowers, filling the hoppers with grain, I was reminded of the importance of the agriculture futures markets to farmers and ranchers across the United States. It's critically important for those of us here in Washington, D.C., to remember that those farmers harvesting their fields took enormous risk when they planted the seeds from which their crops grew. The agriculture futures markets are not only invaluable tools for price discovery, but also for mitigating those risks inherent in production agriculture. Each and every day, I approach my work at the CFTC with those farmers and ranchers in mind, and should I be confirmed, I hope to continue to be a voice for agriculture at the Commission. To have this opportunity to continue in my current role and to be a part of the great things to come at the CFTC is a blessing beyond my imagination. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. And let me start with Dr. Gooden and talk a bit about the fact that the USDA Rural Development is now responsible for implementing the largest investment in rural electricity since the New Deal. From the state of Michigan alone, there's tremendous interest. We have over 215 applications from farmers and electric cooperatives and small businesses requesting nearly $2 billion in clean energy funding. And we know that this is going to create a lot of good paying jobs also, which we're very excited about. Could you talk about your plan to use these resources that are available to rural development to both tackle the climate crisis and also ensure the timely and responsible allocation of these funds?
Well, thank you, Chairwoman Stabenow. We certainly understand the vital impact that these clean energy programs have on rural America, and we're committed in rural development to ensure that we employ aggressive strategies to make sure we hire people to actually allocate the funding that came through, certainly through our PACE and New Era programs, looking at if we can really impact the cost of energy in rural America, reduce the energy costs through these programs, that really helps rural America, but also it improves our environment, which is always better for our farmers, ranchers, but also through our programs and some of our bio-based programs, providing additional opportunities of revenue for our farmers and ranchers as well. So with that, 3, reducing energy costs, cleaning our energy, and also providing additional revenues, I think that certainly is a benefit for rural America. And we're committed to working with our Rural Utility Service Administrator and program to make sure that we meet the timeline to deploy these funds as Congress has intended.
Thank you. You know, as we talk about new programs, we're always hearing from small and under-resourced communities about their lack of capacity to be able to apply for USDA rural development programs and other programs within the USDA, and relying on state staff and technical assistance providers to get their applications over the line becomes so important. But in your current role, could you talk about common barriers you've seen communities face when trying to access rural development programs, and what should we be considering as we're looking, as we're writing the next Farm Bill to address these barriers?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Capacity and being able to provide technical assistance to our customers to actually navigate the maze of our programs and sometimes our application process. It is a top priority of mine and the agency to reduce that burden on our customers. It's an equity issue, improving the access to our applications and making sure that our customers are able to complete these applications as well. So certainly there are several things that we're looking at doing. We've actually looking at strengthening our partnerships with our nonprofit organization, other organizations that work in the rural economic development space across the country. That is a key priority of mine, but also hiring staff, really shoring up our field-based operations, making sure that where our customers engage with rural America on the ground, that we have adequate support there for individuals. So certainly, and looking at building the pipeline, again, to be able to provide the staffing, to provide technical assistance. We certainly understand, again, there are things that we can and should do better in rural development, and making our application process easier for our customers is certainly a top priority.
Absolutely. Commissioner Mersinger, you've spoken about how energy markets are an area of focus for you at the CFTC. I've been concerned for a long time and advocated, of course, for clean energy, and it's exciting to see that we are moving and creating these opportunities in rural America as well to tackle greenhouse gas emissions and create jobs and so on. And we know that the derivatives market plays an important role in how we achieve all of these goals. So in your view, what is the Commission's responsibility for supporting the transition that we are involved in to a low-carbon economy?
Thank you for that question, Chairwoman Stabenow. And we do have an important role. I think the markets that we regulate serve a really important role in offering hedging opportunity when you're looking at some of the costs involved in transition. Hopefully it can help kind of smooth out that process. So, you know, our main job is to make sure those markets are functioning, whether it's for energy end users, farmers and ranchers, or those who are using our markets to hedge the risk costs of some of the underlying components that are needed for renewable energy and electrification. So those are all things we're looking at closely through the EMAC committee. And my hope is that we can be contributors to the discussion and do what we can to make sure our markets are functioning the role that they're meant to play.
Thank you. Senator Boozman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Mersinger, as sponsor of the Energy and Environmental Markets Advisory Committee, you have championed ensuring the resiliency of agriculture and energy derivative markets. Can you talk about some of the work you've done to ensure these markets remain robust and resilient, and any future initiatives you may wish to pursue to ensure this goal if you are confirmed?
Thank you for the question, Ranking Member Boozman. And I was very intentional when I picked the EMAC Advisory Committee as a committee to sponsor, because to me, one of the largest input costs for Americans' farmers and ranchers is the cost of energy. And so looking at those markets and how they work and how they serve end users is an important part of the discussion, especially when we're talking about a move to a net zero economy. So our role, the advisory committee role, is really looking at some of the newer metals that are important to renewable energy and further electrification, looking at some of the physical infrastructure related to energy and how that could impact our markets, and what that means for prices for the average consumer. And throughout all of those discussions, it's very important to have farmers and ranchers part of that discussion. Any discussion of climate and improving our energy infrastructure needs to include America's farmers and ranchers, who I often call the first environmentalists. To really worry about the environment and the work that they do to conserve soil and bring agriculture products to the general public.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Gooden, over 50% of counties in Arkansas, and I think 53% nationally, have lost population over the last 10 years. This scenario is not, again, unique to Arkansas. We routinely hear about the lack of opportunity and capacity building to stimulate economic development. Can you provide examples of initiatives Congress or the administration could pursue that could stem out migration and generate sustained economic growth in rural areas?
Thank you, Ranking Member Bozeman.
What's the answer to the problem that your daddy posed?
Well, I think I've been mulling that solution for about 30 years now.
I know you have.
And I really do appreciate that question. The issue of the outmigration of population in rural areas is a major concern across the country. Rural development has some significant programs and initiatives to shore up support in our rural communities. We have a rural partners network that actually look to work in some of the underserved communities that rural development may not have reached in quite some time. And it's a all of government approach. It's breaking down silos not only across USDA, but it actually is breaking down silos across government where we can bring more government resources to these rural areas with our Rural Partners Network. And so really it's designed to help strengthen the capacity of these communities, not only to learn about our programs, but actually to be able to take advantage of not only rural development programs, but programs at SBA, EDA, and other parts of the government. So again, we're working very diligently to bring the resources of the federal government and to partner with state and local municipalities to actually make sure that rural counties can avail themselves to the opportunities that we have here in the federal government.
Very good, thank you. And I guess that I've got some more, but I'll submit those to the record in the interest of time. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Before proceeding, I understand Senator Marshall would like a moment of personal privilege. We're not sure what this is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. I know the Ag Committee has been watching with bated breath the upcoming Farmageddon Bowl game. Farmageddon between Iowa State and Kansas State. And I just want to congratulate Senator Ernst and Senator Grassley for a well-played game. They took it to us. This has been going on for 100 years. Farmageddon, in case you missed it, Farmageddon Bowl game, usually the Saturday before or after Thanksgiving, and I just want to present the trophy this year to Senator Ernst and Senator Grassley and make this a new tradition for the Ag Committee. As we pass this trophy back and forth. So Senator Ernst, on behalf of Iowa State, congratulations.
Well, Madam Chair, I want to congratulate my Cyclones. Go Clones. Thank you.
We are happy to accept this new tradition of the committee. So, all right.
Senator Grassley.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Senator Smith.
But it's a New Holland.
I know. I'm not sure, Senator Smith, if you
Where's
have
my
any-
John Deere?
Madam Chair, maybe it would be possible to move the microphones and we could have a little drag race.
We
down
could. We
committee.
could. Yeah.
Table.
Don't give.
I'm sorry, I did not mean
Don't
to encourage.
give him any
I
ideas.
know.
I have a feeling.
My bad. I know I'm very sensitive about
There we go. I love it. Right. Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Ranking Member, and welcome to the committee. It's wonderful to see both of you, and thank you for your service. I'd like to start with Dr. Gooden, and I want to talk with you a little bit about rural housing. I think we all know that if you don't have a safe, affordable place to live, nothing else in your life works, not your job, your education, nothing in your community works. And we also know that there's a shortage of housing in rural communities, and that's a huge barrier for families and for businesses that want to expand in rural communities. There's also a real shortage of affordable housing stock, so places where our seniors, people living with disabilities, and also folks working in low-wage jobs are living. And so Senator Rounds and I have been working closely on looking at some common sense reforms to the Rural Housing Service, which has not really been looked at for really quite a long time. I want to thank the department and the Rural Housing Service staff for the very useful technical assistance that they've provided us. And I'm glad to say that this bill that Senator Rounds and I have been working on now has 10 co-sponsors on the Banking Committee, which has jurisdiction over this, 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats. So I want to dive into this a little bit. One of the things that we learned as we did a lot of outreach on this is that the Rural Housing Service struggles with outdated technology, which makes it very difficult for the folks to do their jobs, and it makes it very difficult for the private sector to interact with the Rural Housing Service. And so, Dr. Gooden, could you just talk a little bit about how the role that this Rural Housing Service plays and the role that housing plays in attracting folks to rural communities, and what we need to do to ensure that we keep that stock of affordable housing in community?
Well, good morning, and thank you so much, Senator. I am excited about that question. I share your concern and your interest in rural housing. Much of my career at the state level was with Department of Housing and Community Development. One of the first things that I did as a state director in Virginia in rural development was actually analyze our single-family housing program to make sure that we were able to deploy our program across the state of Virginia to put people in safe, decent, clean, affordable housing in Virginia. Understanding housing is more than just a home, that actually actually impacts health as well.
Yes,
housing and it's a stepping stone to accumulating a wealth as well. So housing plays so many important parts in rural America. I certainly will commit to working with our Rural Housing Service Administrator, but also partnering with our rural housing partners such as HAC and other organizations to really address these issues of rural housing. Certainly understand. One thing I do want to share is that our single-family housing direct loan program this year had a banner year of $1.7 billion. So we are doing some good things with our program, but I think we can certainly do more, and I do share your concern and look forward to working with you, your staff, and other members of Congress to better deploy our housing services across rural America.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to working with you on this as well and talking with you more, Madam Chair and Ranking Member, and other members of this committee about this issue and this legislation. I'm hoping there'll be an opportunity for us to make some progress on this in the coming months. Ms. Mersinger, I'd like to just quickly, in the time I have left, let you know that in preparation for the hearing, we had an opportunity to hear from some grower organizations in Minnesota, and the Minnesota corn growers in particular asked that I pass along a thank you for your commitment to establishing good regular communications with them through the CFTC's Agriculture Advisory Committee. So thank you for that. It means a lot for people to feel as if they have somebody that they can connect with and express their views to. So I'm grateful for that. And I think we all know that consolidation in the ag sector is a significant problem, both on the input side as well as on the processing side. And so we continue to see lots of mergers in this sector, and it's very concerning to a lot of us on both sides of the aisle. So you all play a big role in commodity price discovery. I know you don't have oversight over these mergers, but could you just talk a little bit about whether you think that there is a role for the CFTC to play to help producers that aren't getting a fair market value for their products because of this price transparency issue?
Thank you for the question, Senator Smith. And although I am from South Dakota, I did spend a lovely 4 years in Minnesota at the University of Minnesota. My husband is also a Golden Gopher, and he grew up in Minnetonka. So practically constituents. And to your question on consolidation, especially in the agriculture markets, it's something that we pay attention to. The underlying fundamentals of especially the agriculture complex markets really do have an impact on the price discovery role that our markets play. And so it's something we have to pay close attention to, be aware of, and make sure that at the end of the day, our markets are adequately reflecting the price of these markets. And so that's something that we're thinking about, something that we're looking at into. And, another kind of aspect of concentration here has to do with futures commission merchants, which is kind of the on-ramp to a lot of these markets. We've seen significant drop in numbers in FCMs, and that's something that we are paying attention to. And I think we have some opportunities to look at ways where we could see if there are barriers to entry, and just make sure that we are allowing farmers and ranchers to have full access of the markets so they can hedge the risk.
Thank you very much. A complex question. I appreciate you doing it. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your forbearance.
Absolutely. And Senator Ernst, I don't know if you have other, trophies or awards or speeches you'd like to make.
Next year. I'll be keeping it probably next year, too. So but thank you. Congratulations again to Iowa State, and thank you, Dr. Marshall, very much for a little bit of levity. It's always appreciated. And thanks, Madam Chair and Ranking Member, and as well to our witnesses, Dr. Gooden and the Honorable Mercinger. Thank you very much for your testimonies today. I really appreciate it. I've shared many times before, but I grew up on a small family farm in southwest Iowa, and you could often find me either feeding the hogs or walking soybeans, and I'd like to say they were fond memories, but maybe a little bit of nostalgia now. It was a lot of hard work, and I experienced firsthand the type of work that goes into production agriculture, and my folks taught me the values of service and sacrifice. I've gone through your biographies. We heard them here today. We've heard your remarks, and I'm so encouraged that we have such phenomenal nominees before us today that have that similar background that I had growing up in southwest Iowa. You truly do understand the complex challenges that are facing rural America today. So I really appreciate that. Dr. Gooden, on your cattle farm, God bless you. And then as well, Ms. Mercinger, growing up in South Dakota and having a similar experience. We really do need more dedicated individuals like you that are stepping forward and serving our country in these types of positions. I know and understand that both of you will not only want our small rural communities to survive, but you want them to thrive. And that's why I'm excited that you're here. So I always do get a couple of questions as I'm out and about. I travel Iowa, hit all 99 counties every year on my river-to-river tour. And so if we can address some of those questions today, and Dr. Gooden, I'll focus a lot of the questions to you. We do have a number of companies in Iowa that will turn corn, soybeans, and other plant-based feedstocks into a broad spectrum of everyday products. USDA's BioPreferred program represents a very important tool for our federal government to spur private sector innovation. This adds value to the crops that farmers are producing, and it also builds our national security. So, Dr. Gooden, will you commit to supporting this important program, again, the USDA BioPreferred program, and working across the federal government to improve the reporting, data collection, and procurement opportunities for those products?
Thank you very much, Senator Ernst. Very excited about our BioPreferred program, and I will certainly commit to making sure that that program has the resources and attention that it needs to make the impact that Congress intended. We're excited both about the labeling aspect of the BioPreferred program and also the procurement preferences as well. Very impactful program, and it's making a big difference in rural America, as you so noted. So again, very excited about that program, and looking forward to moving that forward.
Outstanding. I appreciate that because overall, the U.S. is falling behind when it comes to prioritizing that ag bioeconomy environment. And so I would love it as well if you would commit to educating others within the administration about the incredible opportunity that we have. Do you commit to do that as well?
I do. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Anytime that we can sing the praises of the impact, certainly for our farmers and ranchers, again, the benefits, additional revenue streams for them, I'm all in. So thank you so
Thank
much. For your
you.
support.
And Dr. Gooden, Iowa continues to be a leader in renewable energy and ethanol production specifically. It's something I feel very strongly about. Homegrown biofuels are very critical to our farmers and our consumers, and especially when we're working to lower costs at the pump. The Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program, HBIIP, has been a useful tool for helping convenience stores purchase the infrastructure needed to support these higher blends of fuels, such as E15 and E85. If confirmed, can you commit to continuing this program and ensuring that consumers are provided with higher blend options, which are oftentimes much lower cost at the pump?
Yes, ma'am. I certainly commit to that. We have a fantastic team in our rural business and cooperative services, really focused on this and this program, making sure that it is making the impact that it's desired to do, and they're committed to doing that. Great team at USDA Rural Development to do that.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate that. I see that I am running out of time. I do have a number of other questions that have come from constituents. I'll submit those for the record. Things such as childcare as well in the rural areas and how we're working to improve that situation. But again, to both of our nominees, thank you very much. Really appreciate you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And I have raised the issue in the bio-based economy with Dr. Gooden as well, so I'm so glad that you have raised that. There's a whole lot of jobs and opportunities in this area. So, Senator Marshall. Oh,
right.
excuse me. I'm sorry. Wait just a second. We have Senator Bennett.
Wait. With your permission, Madam Chair, I'd defer to Senator Marshall if I could go after.
You may. Yes. There you go.
I'm honored.
Merry
Thank you
Christmas.
Thank you so much, and we're going to
Yeah.
keep working on those water issues
Let's
between
do
Colorado and Kansas.
That's right.
neighborhood.
That's
Okay.
right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Senator
you.
Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start off with Dr. Good. Now, before you answer this question, I want you to know that my mom's family raised Hereford cattle, and my dad's raised Angus beef cattle. What type of cattle do you raise?
We're pretty agnostic on the cattle. My family raises Black Angus beef cattle.
Well, that's a great choice. It's all good to me. I think we should be, contrary to what the United Nations is saying, I'm so proud that American farmers and ranchers grow beef with less of a carbon footprint than anybody else in the world does, and I think it's a pretty good protein source as well. So, Dr. Gooden, if you could do one thing in the next 6 months that would help rural America, what would it be? Maybe two things, one or two things.
Senator, I really feel that rural America, actually the loss of the population in rural America, so really promote rural livability, making sure that people understand that rural America is not just a place that produces energy or things that you can extract products from, that actually is a place that you can live, raise a family, and actually work and have a livable wage. Really, again, just promote that. If you're talking specifically through our programs at Rural America, what I would do in the next 6 months, I would focus heavily on our staffing, making sure our staffing is adequately supported in our field-based operations where we meet the customers there on the ground to make sure that they understand our programs and can access our programs. That's what I would do through rural.
Thank you, Dr. Good. You know, as I listened to your testimony, I was reminded that you laid out some really good goals that you could do, representing the government. But other than making it rain, the biggest thing the federal government could do is help drive the interest rates down. That's what's impacting rural America probably as much as anything right now, our interest rates. We were paying 2% for operation loans, now 9%. That was the profit. So at the bigger level, I just hope you use your megaphone to tell the White House that we can't keep spending so much money and printing dollars that leads to high interest rates as well. Lastly, I do want to ask about childcare. Senator Ernst kind of brought it up as well. If we expanded USDA loan program to include childcare facilities, would that be of use?
Oh, yes, sir, Senator. And certainly our community facilities program, actually, we invest in community facilities, healthcare clinics in
Right.
rural areas, hospitals as well, and certainly educational opportunities.
But right now, so I understand, we can't do child care centers. I think that'd be something great to think about on a farm bill, is expanding what the USDA could loan money on to include some type of child care facilities. They're just not profitable, so we could give them or help loan them a facility. Perhaps it would work out as well. Next, I'll turn to Commissioner Mersinger. Thank you again. And I'm going to start, your children came with you. I'm going to pass on some advice to your children, okay? Now listen to this. Mark Twain said, "When I was 15, my dad was the dumbest man I'd ever met." But by the time he turned 23, he'd learned a lot. So as you're fighting with your mom and your dad, the girls can fight with their moms, the boys fight with their dad. Just remember that over the next 7 or 8 years, your mom and dad are going to learn a lot. So I appreciate, Commissioner, your commitment to family. And I think about rural America. I think those family values are so important. So I appreciate you bringing them here and letting them see what mom does for a living. And what you do is important, that the farmers and ranchers back home use commodity futures as part of their risk management. And they seldom have a concern, but we've got one going on now. And I'm going to have to turn my notes because this is a little bit more complicated. I want to talk about live cattle future prices for a second. They just seem to be out of whack. I've never seen such divergence in the prices. And we do use these. Our feedlots, 25% of the beef in the country comes through our feedlots in southwest Kansas as well. So the swing in prices is damaging to producers. What's the economic basis for this big swing that we're happening? And heaven forbid, is there any type of evidence of market manipulation going on here? Is there any chance that there's market manipulation going on? It just doesn't make sense to us.
Thanks for that question, Senator. And I grew up on a cattle ranch. I spent the first 14 years of my life on a cattle ranch, actually picking rocks for fun. So it definitely, I understand the challenges, and I know how important the futures markets are for cattle producers in providing that price discovery. We have very well-qualified, very smart analysts who are watching these markets day in and day out, monitoring. The agriculture markets are very sensitive to underlying fundamentals, and as you know, the pricing aspect and how prices are reported in the cattle markets. There's a number of questions around how that is formulated. That's not within our jurisdiction, but certainly it impacts our futures markets, and so. Certainly we are willing to work with USDA, willing to work with this committee to see, if there are things that need to be changed. And certainly if there's anything that needs to be changed within the contract specifications for the live.
So if there was market manipulation going on, do you think that you could see it? Could you figure it out? Are you concerned there's market manipulation?
I do feel strongly that we would be able to see it if there was manipulation in the futures markets. Not only are we surveying for that, but also the exchanges. That's part of their role. So I do think, when we see fraud and manipulation, we put an end to it. We go after the bad actors. And it's also on the exchange to ensure that these markets are not susceptible to fraud and manipulation. That's part of their core principles. So we are looking into it all the time, and certainly happy to work with your office and this committee to see what we can do if there are things that can be done to better make sure these markets serve their purpose.
Senator Bennett.
Thank you. Promises made, promises kept. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the ranking member for holding this hearing, and thank you to our nominees for your willingness to serve and to testify before the committee. Dr. Gooden, your predecessor and now the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture made a point to visit Colorado during her tenure as the Undersecretary for Rural Development, and we appreciate it. I hope you will make it a priority to visit Colorado as well and to meet with our farmers and ranchers and community leaders business owners who are working hard to keep Colorado's rural areas vibrant. A topic that I've raised over a long, long time in this committee and continues to be a challenge for rural Colorado communities is the burdensome red tape that's holding back rural development programs. Whether it's the Community Facilities Program that helps rural health clinics in the San Luis Valley, or clean energy development in northwest Colorado, or rural housing on the Eastern Plains, this trend can't continue if we want to be successful in lifting up our rural communities. Our rural communities don't have time to get drowned in the red tape that they're suffering from. So I would ask you, Dr. Gooden, as if confirmed as Undersecretary, how you'll work to reduce the burdensome application and contracting requirements for the USDA rural development programs.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. I will commit, certainly, to come to Colorado,
You're
following
good.
in the footsteps of Deputy Secretary Xochitl Torres-Smalls.
Thank you.
Certainly understand and appreciate your question related to the red tape. One of the top priorities that I have at rural development is really making our application process far easier to access and complete. Whether that's working with our rural partners to provide technical assistance, and again, it's showing up the support of our staff there on the ground in Colorado and across the country to make sure that they can help applicants better understand that process. I mean, there's a maze sometimes of programs that small towns sometimes don't really understand exactly some of our programs and the benefits that they can bring to their area. So making sure that our staff is able to come out and meet these individuals where they are in these small towns and municipalities.
Yeah, I would say maybe another way of saying that is that small towns don't have the resources that big municipalities have to hire people whose only job is to figure out how to get themselves through the USDA red tape and through these complicated processes. They don't. They can't afford to do it. And it's not fair for them to have to do it because it shuts them out of the process. And they're the ones that need the help the most. So I'll take you on your commitment. I believe it. And if there are things that I've made this offer to your predecessors, and I'll say it again, if there are things we can do to change the way the law is written to help make your job easier, you shouldn't have to hire a bunch of lawyers and accountants to get through these forms. You just shouldn't have to do it. You know, your average small town in America should be able to do this. Your average producer should be able to do this. And if they can't, it's not their fault, it's our fault. And it's unfortunately, the problem is people here, they come for a job and stay for 2 or 3 years. I'm not criticizing you in any way. That's just the way this works. The people at home are still doing the same thing they were dealing with 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So I'd like to build a statue to you if you could figure out how to get some of this stuff done and whatever I can do to help. Let me also use this as a chance to express my appreciation for all the work the rural development team at USDA is doing to roll out the new Inflation Reduction Act clean energy programs. With the IRA, we made the single largest investment in rural electrification since the New Deal. And I am particularly excited about the new ERA program, nearly $10 billion to help rural electric co-ops transition to clean energy. I know the program, not surprisingly, is significantly oversubscribed. It's great to see how much interest there has been. Colorado co-ops are poised to lead the clean energy transition in rural America, and I hope USDA will give their applications full and fair consideration. I think New Era has the potential to fund larger renewable projects and even position rural co-ops to own projects for the first time, which they've never been able to do. And that's going to provide huge value to rural communities for their long-term economic value. I've been hearing concerns about how projects are going to make it through the NEPA process or whether they will ever make it through the NEPA process in a timely era. And so I'd ask you, outside of increased staff capacity, which of course is going to be difficult to find, at the Agency for Environmental Review, in your experience, what can USDA do to speed up the NEPA review process for the New Era program? And, well, let me stop there and see if you've got an answer to
But
that.
thank you, Senator. Certainly understand the frustration and the challenges that's being encountered related to our environmental review process. That is something that rural development has been taken very seriously, looking at strategies to improve that, the environmental review process. Actually, we did hire some additional staff to really focus on that. We have a task force that actually has been created over a year ago now, working to provide recommendations to address the environmental review process. And then also, too, we've contracted with others to help us be able to complete those environmental review process to move those rural development projects forward. So we're giving this serious attention, Senator, but we certainly welcome the input and the feedback. And I certainly don't take any comments as any criticism at all. We need to hear certainly what we're things that we can do better. And so we look forward to working with you, your staff, and other members of Congress to really address these issues, certainly around environmental reviews and other issues as well.
Thank you. We look forward to that. And Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to ask these questions. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely, and let me echo the paperwork. Both Senator Bozeman and I have talked extensively about yes, and with our Deputy Secretary now as well, about the importance of streamlining the paperwork for communities and farmers and so on, to be able to get the services that are so important that are being offered. So, Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations. Thanks for both of you being here. Very impressive families. It's good to see them here, too. Before I get started, Dr. Gooden, I've always wanted to ask this question. The son of a principal at the school that you went, did you have any friends?
No, sir. I had very, very few friends.
Nobody ever came home with you, did they? Huh?
No, very, very.
Hard to get somebody to sleep over with you.
Right.
I always wondered that.
Right.
But good to have you here. Dr. Gooden, a couple of quick questions. Would increasing the guaranteed FSA loan cap expand access to capital and credit in rural communities?
Senator, thank you so much for that question. Actually, we work with our colleagues across USDA and certainly in FSA as well, really focused on improving farmers, ranchers, the livability and the livelihood. And so if I am so honored to be confirmed, I will certainly work with FSA and other parts of USDA to really address these issues in rural America. Currently, that's outside of the purview of RD, rural development, but certainly is a focus of rural livability.
I think it's something we need to address, especially in some of the states like I'm from. I mean, I think it's pretty important. You and I talked about rural broadband, and considering the strong push for fiber we're seeing from this administration, can you speak to the importance of promoting tech neutrality amongst all broadband technologies, including fiber and coax?
Thank you, Senator. Really appreciate that.
It's a lot cheaper.
What we're focused on, certainly in rural development, is the quality of the broadband and the standards. Right now, 100 over 100, that's what we're focused on. We're pretty agnostic related to the technologies. And again, I personally, my family, and my community members in Buckingham County, Virginia, we understand the need for high-speed internet and the impact that it makes in lives. Certainly, as I shared with you, right through our family farm, there was fiber laid along a natural gas pipeline only 200 yards from our house, and we weren't able to connect to that high-speed internet at all. So we're agnostic related to the technologies, open to all technologies. Again, we're focused on the quality of broadband that actually is deployed in these rural areas.
We've got to do something pretty quick because this technology and farm equipment's getting more complex, GPSs and things like that. And,
Yes.
you know, I know you'll do a good job of that, but I think that's one of the most important things we can do for our farmers. Commissioner, as you know, the farmers rely on derivatives to hedge risk. I just did a huge sweep of the South, and I was shocked how many people hedge, their farms. And it's real important. What are you doing at the CFTC to make derivative products more accessible to producers and particularly small farmers?
Thank you for that question. And certainly, making sure that America's farmers and ranchers can use our markets to hedge their risk. And a lot of times this is an important tool that they need to access credit. So certainly ensuring that they have access to these markets is very important. I think one of the things we can be doing and that we hopefully at some point will be able to do is use our Office of Customer Education and Outreach to better get in touch with those small farmers and ranchers and at least introduce them to the markets and how they can help. Another, you mentioned access earlier when I was speaking to Senator Smith. I mentioned that we are seeing smaller numbers of the Futures Commission merchants, and that's a critical piece of accessing futures markets. So certainly we need to look at if whether there are policies impacting it, if there are barriers to entry, and just make sure that those who want to access our markets can, and that they're serving the price discovery role that they are meant to serve.
Are you seeing people reach out to you about education and what you're doing, farmers? And is there a huge need for maybe education in this area?
Yes, there is, and we do try to leverage some of our relationships with the various farm groups. We do have some limitations on how we can spend funds in our Office of Consumer Education, and I think it would be very helpful if the committee decided to do reauthorization, if we were able to expand that ability to use that money to better reach farmers and ranchers.
Thank you. And thanks for both of your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Warnock.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and congratulations to both of you for your nominations. As of last year, 90% of the places in Georgia that are unconnected are in rural communities, and we've already heard a lot about that today. There's no secret that rural America, rural Georgia struggles with this issue of connectivity. And, as I've said time and time again, broadband is to the 21st century what electricity was in the 20th century. And I think if we think about it in those terms, it will sharpen the urgency with which we address this issue. Folks in rural Georgia consistently tell me that they don't have adequate internet access, and they can't take advantage of distance learning, of telehealth services. I've spent a lot of time with farmers and working with Senator Thune and others to address the issue of precision agriculture. It's impressive to see what farmers are able to do with these new precision agricultural technologies. We're looking to standardize these technologies so that they can talk to one another. But none of that means anything at all if people can't get online. And so I'm glad that the Reconnect program has provided over $93.5 million to deploy broadband in rural areas of Georgia that lack sufficient access. Dr. Gooden, if confirmed, will you commit to working with me and my colleagues to prioritize an efficient rollout of these broadband development funds to ensure all Georgians have access to a reliable internet connection? Help me to understand where that is in your suite of priorities and how you will help us to get that done.
Well, thank you, Senator Warnock. High-speed internet is vitally important to rural America. And I like to say it is not an amenity, it's a necessity.
Right.
We see that across the country, and so I fully commit to ensuring that we work with your staff and other members of Congress to make sure that we roll out our Reconnect program, and we continue to work with other parts of the federal government, like the Department of Commerce, NTIA, FCC, to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts, but we augment and support each other. So certainly commit to addressing broadband issues across rural America.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your commitment. It's critical, and we've got to remain focused on this issue. And Reconnect, to be fair, is just one component, right, of solving this big problem. But all of this new broadband infrastructure doesn't do a bit of good if people can't access it, but also if people can't afford it. And that's why I was glad to see that the Biden administration requested that Congress provide additional funding for the Affordable Connectivity Program. We've got to keep those two things, those two priorities at the center of our minds, both accessibility and affordability. So I hope we can get those things done.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And
Thank
also
you.
reliability. I would like to throw in reliability there as well.
Absolutely.
So affordable, certainly, and reliable.
I certainly will agree with that. Georgia's needs are diverse. I've worked tirelessly to address the needs of all Georgians, including the unique challenges faced by rural and undeserved communities. Some rural communities in my state, like Eccles County, have little or no access to physical bank branches, making it difficult for them to manage their financial assets. And sometimes a banking app, as nice as that is to have, sometimes it doesn't cut it, particularly if you can't get online. So my next question is directed to Ms. Messenger. Do you believe financial technology companies have a role in promoting financial inclusion in rural and undeserved communities, and what's the work that we need to see done on that front?
Thank you for that question. And coming from a small community, my mother actually spent her career working at the Oneida Bank. It was a mainstream bank, and it was critical to the farmers and ranchers in that community to have the capital that they needed to do their work and to to supplement their livelihood. So I completely understand what you're saying about the importance of having access to bank branches, and certainly I think fintech can play a role. As you said, an app doesn't necessarily replace the physical bank on the street corner, but certainly if there's ways to reach more people and provide them regulated banking services, I think that's really important and something that should be promoted as long as there are adequate consumer protection and regulatory oversight.
And I think that's critically important, and we see that many of these communities are sometimes targeted, and they don't have access to the very kinds of services that you're talking about. So I look forward to working with you, and I remain committed to ensuring that all Georgians have access to the services they need to build wealth and ensure their financial security, both through mobile banking services and physical branch locations. Thank you so very much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Braun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Enjoyed our conversation yesterday evening, Dr. Gooden. I got a question for you, and then momentarily one for you, Mrs. Mersinger. When it comes to rural broadband, our state has done pretty well in terms of putting its own resources into it. But so often, when anything comes from the federal government, we've received in Indiana through Reconnect 2 fundings, one for $1 million, one for $2 million. And Illinois has received several, one of which would be for $20 million. So I would like to know what the rhyme or reason is for how much a given state gets, and why, in the case of 2 neighbors there'd be such a disparity between one that is literally either 10 or 20 times the size of the 2 that we got in Indiana, which would have been back in 2020.
Thank you, Senator Braun. I appreciate that question, and I look forward to learning more about that. I'm not fully aware of that issue, but certainly would work with you, your staff, to better understand and then provide you a response related to how those applications are reviewed. So again, thank you for the question, and I'll look forward to learning more about that.
And if you don't mind, I think it would be good to go through probably how that's been dispensed across the country, because just in this one case, that was brought to my attention by folks from Indiana. And Indiana is a place that generally is going to be somewhat more self-reliant. And I would hope that you're not being penalized. If you are doing that, that should have no bearing in terms of how you might participate in a federal program.
Well, thank you, Senator. I do know that these programs are highly competitive and often oversubscribed. And I know there's some very tough decisions that have to be made related to these programs. But again, I do commit to learning more about that and being able
Getting back to me on it will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Mrs. Mersinger, when it comes to the whole cryptocurrency issue, to me that is something that is so amorphous. We don't know where it's going to end up. It's certainly not a currency in the sense of having stability. I want to just zero in on it, though, in that it is emerging. It's new. Last week, the CEO of Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, pleaded guilty to violating anti-money laundering requirements. Earlier this month, the founder of FTX, another crypto exchange, was found guilty of 7 counts of fraud. Last year, the committee spent considerable time debating new crypto regulations. It seems to me that our existing laws and regulations are bringing criminals to justice. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And in an industry that is literally evolving daily, that's got a lot of peculiarities to it, I think is yet to be determined where it fits in to the total scheme. Do you think we need more regulation, or do you think there's accountability in place given the 2 instances I cited? Getting to the key question, even though we know there are issues with it, is there a possibility we could over-regulate it, especially when we brought 2 to accountability already?
No, thank you for that question. I was worried I wouldn't get a crypto question, so I'm glad that we're
there. You go.
I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I do have to give a lot of credit and accolades to our enforcement team. They were really the first movers on the Binance case. They came out with a very strong case against Binance and the founder and their chief compliance officer, and we definitely have seen justice served in that space. So I think what that means is, we are catching people who are committing fraud and who are doing bad things in these markets. Unfortunately, when you're only using your enforcement authority, you're coming in after the fact. The money has been lost, consumers have been harmed, the bad behavior has occurred. So while we are able to go after those individuals with the authorities we have, what we don't have is the ability to get ahead and be proactive and look at these markets and ensure that customers are protected. There is immense amount of interest in these markets from U.S. citizens. We can't ignore it. And in working closely with our states, we need to have a federal framework to oversee the cash markets for crypto commodities.
So does that mean then you are going to use the current framework, try to enhance it, or just be kind of attentive to it?
That's a great question, and it is something we've looked into. I do believe that we probably need legislative authority to do more in this space. I don't think that right now these exchanges could register under our current regime. And yeah, I've seen a lot of great ideas out of this committee and elsewhere throughout Congress, and I think we can get to a good place where we have federal framework to properly regulate these markets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to jump in on one editorial comment because I do, Senator Braun, want to say that the enforcement being done at CFTC has been really excellent, but it's important to note that there is no regime in place on the front end. What happened at FTX would have been completely illegal if we had passed the bill that Senator Bozeman and I had introduced last year in terms of transparency and so on. And so hopefully we'll have more opportunity in the coming year to really discuss that. So thank you. All right. Well, Senator Hoeven, you have jumped in just in time to bump Senator Highsmith. So would you like to? All right, Senator Highsmith, she has been very patient. Thank you, Senator Highsmith.
Either way is fine. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for hosting this hearing. And thank you to the two of you. I congratulated some folks earlier in the day, and I said thank you for your bravery, but thank you for your willingness. and to have 4 children tagging along, and you both have beautiful families. Senator Ernst and I had a sidebar conversation. We both have 1 child each. And I said, I don't know what I did before I got her, but I must have been a lazy American. And I can't imagine what you go through. But I'm going to start with Dr. Gooden. I certainly enjoyed our visit yesterday, and I know I threw a lot of stuff at you, and I think we had a thorough discussion. But one of the things, as we spoke of yesterday, that I'm concerned about is health care. And, throughout Mississippi, particular our Delta, the epicenter of our agriculture industry, we're currently facing some very severe potential hospital closures. And working on a farm is dangerous. We're livestock producers ourselves, and whether it's equipment accidents or handling livestock, it is critical that we have access to rural health care. I've had to leave the Senate floor to fly home when my husband encountered a bull. And, many family members, we've literally had to airlift because that's what we do for a living. But I'm just worried about how producers and farm workers in Mississippi are going to get that urgent medical care if the rural areas in which they work don't have a hospital. And the rural Americans face very unique health disparities and challenges compared to those in urban areas. But we grow the food in rural areas. It's hard to grow food in a subdivision. So I've worked to establish the CDC Office of Rural Health, support rural developments, Delta Healthcare Services grant programs, and provided resources for telecommunications programs to help rural Mississippi hospitals administer that. But when you have a patient, you have to get to somewhere. But this committee has spent a lot of time this year talking about using the Farm Bill to strengthen rural America by supporting farmers and ranchers. But I want to make sure that we look at the health care situation because of the obvious reasons that I've already stated. But if confirmed, what will you do to ensure that rural development's programs to support health care in hospitals are strong and effective? And how can Congress help the agency on those endeavors?
Thank you, Senator. And I certainly share your concern about health care in rural America. As a farmer myself, certainly understand the dangers of working on the farm. And actually, a longtime worker on our farm actually had a stroke, not on our farm, but he had a stroke. He worked for us for about 30 years. And actually, it took more than 4 hours for him to get to a medical facility because of the remoteness of the area, but also because of weather. And really think that his condition would have turned out different if he had easier access to health care. So certainly, that's near and dear to me. That's something that we understand. I am excited to say that through our community facilities program, most of that program actually is, the portfolio is dedicated to rural health care, funding rural clinics in the areas. And personally, again, when I was the state director in Virginia, worked with a rural hospital in Appalachia, Virginia, out in Lee County, Virginia, to try to help find ways to make sure that that hospital stayed open as well. So very familiar with the significant issue rural hospitals and healthcare is across the country. And certainly I will commit to ensuring that we utilize our programs through rural development and community facilities programs and other resources, working with partners to address healthcare issues in rural America.
Thank you very much for that. And now I want to talk about some rural water systems. That's also very important to me, very important to my constituents, and I've worked to support Rural Development's Circuit Rider program, and that provides essential services to train small communities on how to best operate and maintain their water systems. Safe water, as we well know, is so critical. But I've also worked with Senator Cortez Masto to introduce the Rural Water System Disaster Preparedness Assistance Act to make sure rural water systems can resume operations as soon as possible after a natural disaster. And we have a lot of those in Mississippi because we have a lot of hurricanes in Mississippi. But these rural water programs administered by your agency are very important and helpful. But the application process, also involves a lot of paperwork and a lot of red tape. As we talked about yesterday, the folks who are in the business of assistants and advisors to do this, that business is growing, the consultants, because it's so difficult. And I want us to be able to provide that as U.S. federal government, that when you come in and apply for these programs, we're the ones trained that can help you do that. So what opportunities do you foresee to strengthen and improve access to rural water programs, particularly through the administrative burdens?
Thank you, Senator. Very proud of our rural water program, our WEP program, and the people that run that program. We certainly look for opportunities to, again, collaborate and partner with folks on the ground. Certainly we work with municipalities to deploy these programs, understanding that clean, safe water is essential to not only the health, but also business creation and job creation as well. So certainly we're committed there. Certainly things that we can do is actually work with our partners on the ground, but also make sure that Congress understands and make sure that we hear any concerns that your office have related to any of our programs in rural development and certainly around clean water. But we're here, I think we certainly have the knowledge and the expertise. We may need to augment the staffing in some of our field-based operations, the boots on the ground, and I think that's where we can focus a lot of our energy to get this job done related to rural water.
Thank you. And your both are so impressive, and I have more questions, but I'm out of time, so I'll submit those to the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Hoven.
Thank you, Ranking Member Bozeman. Thanks to both of you for being here. We appreciate it very much and your service. Dr. Gooden, one of the big challenges we have is, creating more competition for our livestock producers. I know you both are well aware of that. And one of the things that your predecessor, Secretary Torres Small, worked on very diligently was helping us get more of these processing and slaughter facilities going in our state and around the country. And we need to do a lot more of that. So I want to hear what your ideas are to really help create more competition that will serve our ranchers in great states like mine, as well as South Dakota, and really across the country. What can we do? What are you committed to do to really help our cattlemen get better pricing, more competition, more transparency, more options to sell their great product?
Well, thank you, Senator. Really appreciate that question. As a cattleman myself, I look for any opportunities to increase revenue, gate sales, anything that we can do to support our farmers, ranchers, and foresters and landowners in rural America. We certainly have programs. Certainly the meat and poultry processing program has really garnered a lot of interest, is really making a significant impact, and it continues to be open right now to continue to receive consideration for these projects, knowing that the more that we can increase competition in the processing space, that is better for the farmers and ranchers and producers as well. So certainly not only looking for revenue streams from meat processing, but also trying to reduce costs, sort of augment some of the cost of the fertilization. We have a fertilization program as well, looking at trying to make sure that that's sustainable, that farmers can rely on domestic production of fertilizer. And so really looking at ways that we can reduce costs, certainly for the farmers, but also make it sustainable. And so increasing income opportunities and revenue streams for rural farmers as well, whether it's through bio-based products, consideration, but just looking at ways that we can create more and better markets for our rural farmers and our rural businesses as well.
Yeah, you all have a lot of cow-calf operations down there in central Virginia.
Yes, sir.
And what we see is these operations start up, but they have a heck of a time staying in business. You know, it's hard for them to, so what can you do to really help? You know, it's one thing they start up, but then we got to keep them going and hopefully growing so that, you know, they're a stable market for our producers.
Well, certainly, I'm committed to and have been working across USDA, breaking down any silos that may exist to really work with our counterparts in FSA and actually looking at how we can better serve and deliver programs to our rural communities, farmers and ranchers. So certainly understand the significance of the issues of startups. And certainly committed to working with FSA to make sure that we are providing the support needed to our rural farmers as well.
Well, you have good rural development, it's appropriately named. And it's really important that you find ways to help these folks really stay in business and build that market. I think you can have a huge impact. It's timely and it's something people want. You know, the consumer wants it as well. So I look forward to working with you on that. I want to get you out to our state. And it's really not just about getting these operations going, but making sure that they can stay in business and grow and serve not just the cow-calf operator, but the consumer, you know?
Yes, sir.
And then I want to stay on this line with you, Commissioner Mersinger. What can the CFTC do to help, again, create more options for markets for our cattlemen?
Thank you for that question, Senator. And certainly our cattle contracts, you know, they perform an important function in the cattle ecosystem, you know, overall by providing adequate price discovery and hedging opportunities. And, you know, for the CFTC, it's important to us to make sure that those markets are operating as they should, that they reflect the market fundamentals on the ground, and so that these producers can adequately hedge their risk. And if they're not doing that, then we need to take a look at why that's happening. If there needs to be changes to the contract terms, that's something the exchange can look at. If it's a delivery point issue, if there are other concerns underlying the market, those are things that we can look into because these markets need to work.
Yeah, and again, you come from a state that has a large livestock population, and again, need to find ways to help our cattlemen with markets. More competitive pricing, more transparency, more opportunities.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, we will conclude the hearing and thank both of you very much for your testimony. And because we want very much to move your nominations as soon as we can, the record will be open until tomorrow at 5 p.m. for members to submit additional questions or statements. Senator Boozman and I are going to be working closely together, and we are hopeful that we can report nominations out of committee next week. So the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.